Hey guys, Rockshield here. This time in Zul'farrak, where I wanted to test if this dungeon was any good as a paladin. As you may have already seen from the title, it is not. Now there are a few reasons for that, starting with what you're about to see on this first pull here. So I round up the mobs in a standard fashion, thinking, what if there's a chance I can out DPS their healing? I knew some of these witch doctors here would drop their healing totems, but I thought there would be a good chance that, with the combined DPS of my improved spell power, as well as Denarius with his hurricane, that maybe I would be able to out DPS the healing wards you see there on the ground. Well, that turned out to be nothing but fool's gold. It's one thing, for example, in SM Cath, where the mobs cast single target heals like Renew or a healing spell. It's another thing entirely when these healing wards go down and they start AoE healing the entire group. It becomes near impossible, and as you'll see here, I simply do not have the spell power to bring these packs down, and it becomes a fool's task in the end. So I'm thinking things are going decently so far. They're not wiping such big chunks out of my health that the druid won't be able to heal me when I need. And as you can see, my consecration is ticking for a large amount. Between 63 and 64 base, and then upwards up to 72 when I pop my trinkets. And as you'll also see, the mobs are not losing any health whatsoever. So at this point, I'm starting to catch on that it is just not going to happen with these regular mobs in Zul'farrak. I hold out hope, thinking, hey, maybe eventually this combination of DPS might just break through. But as can be seen, this calls for a getaway to zone out of the dungeon. Run! And so much for that. With the next attempt, many of you may have already seen mages who power level themselves on the coffins in Zul'farrak. Considering my druid is level 53, I was thinking maybe these coffin runs would be a good way to level him up, and maybe sell the runs for experience for other players. So once you make your way over to this coffin area, you can start as a paladin since you have armor without the immediate reset in the evade spot you'll see in the future. So you see here, I start opening up the coffins and gathering up the mobs. After I've gathered up this initial group, I jump up to the evade spot many of you already know. Heal myself up, top myself off, and let the mobs evade. Awesome, so now they've reset. Then head over to the second areas and open up more of the coffins. As I was still gaining experience with these attempts, I didn't try and loot any of the coffins, though that is potentially another form of income if you think these runs are something you want to do. Ultimately, while these runs are good, after you've seen my SM Cath videos, those runs are just so much gold and provide the player so much more experience than these mobs can here. I really don't think this is worth it for a paladin in Classic WoW. With that pack complete, simply rinse and repeat, gathering up the next group of zombies. Now that you've gathered up the zombies, make sure, after this reset, that you take care of the one regular mob in the hallway. In addition to that, you want to make sure you don't aggro any of the dead heroes, the fallen heroes. This is because the aggro tables between the zombies and the regular mobs are not the same. So if I aggro all the zombies in here and run them through the regular mobs won't aggro. But if I aggro even one regular mob like this, Then they will aggro all of the regular mobs, who will aggro those witch doctors, and that same situation you saw in the first pull will happen, and it's over if it happens. So if you are doing this, make sure you head over to the single mob in this hallway and take care of that mob so that it doesn't become a problem for you when you start the pull. Now go ahead and get started with the pull here. You see I avoid those fallen heroes, as they will ruin the pull. But get every zombie you can. Now at this point, the run back does involve quite a bit of jumping around, etc. One thing I realized is if I used an item like a swiftness potion or something else that would increase my speed, I could gather these scarabs as well. Ultimately, the loot from the zombies proved so much less than SM Cath and 2 pulls, it isn't really worth it to go back for me to even test, as I'm quite certain these non-elite scarabs wouldn't be worth it in the end. But they too are on a different aggro table, meaning it would be slightly more experience and loot for you if you chose to do these runs. One thing you also notice here as I continue on the path is that you want to make sure you don't run too far away from the zombies. I did that on one run thinking that I would just go as fast as possible to return back to my home spot, but then the zombies just pathed back and I had to start all over again. Here you just want to be certain you don't fall straight to the ground, as you'll take much more damage. Though if you are a paladin watching this, you can heal, so it's not that big of a deal. Switch over to Retribution Aura, and at this point, you want to try and jump up here. This path allows you to avoid all those regular mobs in the spot down there. And it also gives you a place to heal yourself. Now, bringing the mobs back over here, presumably your party will be there if you want their help for power leveling them. Or, if you want to do it solo, I found that I do need my druid, as this clip up in mobs means they hit just a little bit harder, and thus would be very difficult to truly solo alone. You saw just how much of my health they took off in some of those chunks. But with a multi-boxing approach like I have here, it's no problem as long as you make sure that you stay on top of the healing. Better yet would be if you had a party that you wanted to power level. Then they would get the great experience and you get the loot. Certainly this is a beautiful pull aesthetically. Just all the effort that goes into rounding up all of these mobs isn't worth it relative to what you've seen in my SM Cath videos. In SM Cath also, you'll get those BOE blues like the Scarlet Chest, which sell for quite a lot of gold. And even though these zombies do have a great drop table as well, you just don't get as many of them and it takes so much time to set up. I find that Zul'farrak is not the ideal place for a paladin. With that I want to say, thank you for watching. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Light be with you all, take care, and thanks again.